Now, if the greater penalty provided by those other offenses doesn't deter them, what makes us think that a lesser penalty from this ordinance would actually bother them? If they're not afraid of the heavier penalty, why bother with the lighter one? And as I stated, I believe I already covered the other issues there with the assistant principal, and it bothers me, Mr. Mayor, that according to this sheet here, the agenda laid out by the Bedford City Council, it states HEB-ISD staff and/or Board of Trustees representative to provide the school district's position on the daytime curfew ordinance, item requested by Mayor Story during the work session. Nowhere on there do I see a request for someone from the other side to come and present their position. Now, a lot of people have come in previous weeks and come to the open forum or persons to be heard. But Mr. Story, Mayor Story, you requested someone from one side but not the other side. And I trust that you were trying to seek information and make a fair decision, but in the appearance and issue of fair and balanced, it seems to me that you should have requested and allowed the opportunity for both sides to present their case at the same time. They've never been prevented from presenting their case in the open forum and persons to be heard before, but yet we were not asked to present our side during the work session, which I think lends itself to the appearance, at least, of unfairness and imbalance. As I pointed out before, the ordinance is poorly written. We'd like to see that revoked, repealed, rescinded. One of the previous speakers today under persons to be heard said it's a small but vocal minority. Look at your figures. Look at the people who have spoken against. Look at the people who have spoken for. I believe you will find that more people have spoken against this ordinance than for, so therefore it is not a small but vocal minority. It is the majority that has spoken against this ordinance. It seems to me that the small but vocal minority, is a special interest group, namely the HEB-ISD. It appears that the council and the mayor here, what bothered me was, I believe it was Mr. Hearn came up to speak, and before he spoke, you announced you had a question for him. How did you know that you had a question for him prior to his speaking? I really don't understand that. Again, it lends itself to a bad appearance here that you may be working in conjunction with the school district to present a favorable case for that. All we ask is a fair and balanced hearing here, and that you represent the people, the citizens, the people that elected you, the people that pay their taxes here, and not the school district. You talk about how in September you guys took 2 weeks to review it, then you passed it, but there was no public hearing. It was not required, which I understand. I'm not saying you did anything illegal, but it would have been fair to kind of give a notice and allow the public to have their input rather than waiting until you're required by law. That obviously would have lent it to greater credibility to you guys. You guys have issued 2 citations since enacting the ordinance, and only those 2, Finally, the last thing I have to say, actually 2 things. You mentioned the Hearst survey, and surveys are always questionable because you have to ask what the basis was, and how the survey was conducted, whether or not it's fair, assuming that it was. 88% of the respondents approved of a daytime curfew there. Well, that's great for Hearst. This isn't Hearst, it's Bedford. So it really has no ground and no merit here. Finally, you say you've heard, or excuse me, you say you've listened to us. But I submit to you, you have heard us, but to this point, you have not listened. I would appreciate it if you guys would listen to us, give us a fair chance, and that you would represent the people that elect you and that pay for this city.